So first we have to rewind to Easter of 1913. It was March, Easter weekend. The ground was soaked and frozen. And then we got days and days of relentless rain, cold, wind-driven, and unyielding. We received enough water through this valley over 3 days to equal about 2 weeks over Niagara Falls. 3 large storms converged over the Midwest, and it wasn't just our region that suffered this. The storms were so large that all of Indianapolis, Columbus, Cincinnati, parts of lower Canada were actually impacted by this storm system. The Great Miami River, because the ground was frozen, the water could not soak into the ground. It all ran off into the small channels and then into our big channel. It swelled higher and higher until finally the levees gave way. And this wasn't the first time the levees had broken in our region. They had been building and rebuilding levees higher and higher over the last decade, the decades before that, as we got some very, very large rainstorms. And their solution at the time was just to keep building the levees higher. And in fact, the equipment that was rebuilding levees was sitting in the channel when this storm came through. It was all washed away. So in Dayton and Troy and Hamilton, and right here in Piqua, the unthinkable happened. Homes disappeared. Streets became rivers and factories floated away. And in Piqua, it was devastating. 44 people lost their lives. Half the town was underwater. The Shawnee neighborhood, entire blocks were gone. The river rose 24 feet in some places. 24 feet, that's 2.5 stories. Imagine standing on your porch and watching your barn float away. Imagine watching it rise to your porch, going to the first floor, watching it rise into your living room, your parlor, going to the second floor, seeing it come up the stairs, and having to go into the attic to get away from it. Imagine the silence when the waters receded and realizing that everything you knew familiar was gone. I'll show you a picture in a minute where there are homes hitting the bridges in Piqua. But amid the chaos, there was courage. There's a story that's still, there's quite a few stories. We've got a lot of stories. But a couple specific just to Piqua that really give us chills. Richard Bateman, he was 57 years old. He rowed his small boat through debris-filled waters for 30 miles, rescuing over 100 people. He earned a Carnegie Medal for heroism. Clarence White, he was another local. He pulled stranded neighbors off of rooftops and trees one after another until his hands were raw. These were ordinary people that did extraordinary things during this devastation. And after that flood, communities up and down the river corridor said 2 powerful words: never again. And that phrase, never again, became the rallying cry for what would be one of the most remarkable examples of regional cooperation in American history. It still is. City leaders, engineers, citizens joined forces, and they did not wait for someone else to fix it. In fact, they didn't want someone else to fix it because they didn't trust the state or federal governments at the time. They thought they were corrupt. You know, not like now. They believed that they wanted local control. And so they built something entirely new, a system to protect the entire region, not just one town at a time. And in 1915, just 2 years later, the Miami Conservancy District, we sometimes call it MCD, although no one else does apparently, after I did a little research, but MCD was born.